All right, let's jump right into one of the most fundamental ideas in all of economics, demand. Now, it sounds simple, right? But as we're about to find out, it's about a whole lot more than just what people want to buy. To really get our heads around this, let's start with something super simple, like a cold glass of milk. You know that first sip is just fantastic, but what about the 10th glass or the 100th? Probably not so great, right? That changing feeling, that desire, that's really the heart of what demand is all about.
And that brings us to a really important point. See, in economics, demand isn't just wishing for something. You might desire a brand new sports car, but unless you've actually got the cash to buy it, you're not technically part of the demand for it. It's that combination, the desire plus the ability to pay, that we call effective demand. Okay, so this leads us to the first big rule you've got to know, the law of demand. And honestly, it's incredibly intuitive. It just says that when the price of something goes down, the amount people are willing to buy goes up. And of course, when the price goes up, the amount they're willing to buy goes down. Simple as that. You can see this relationship perfectly in something called a demand schedule. Just look at these numbers for milk. At a kind of pricey $5 a gallon, maybe people buy 10 units. But what happens when you drop that price to just $1? Boom! The quantity people want to buy jumps all the way to 50. That's that inverse relationship in action, plain and simple. But why does that happen? What's the logic here? Well, economists have boiled it down to three main reasons. First, there's the substitution effect. If milk gets cheaper, other things like juice suddenly seem more expensive in comparison, so you substitute the cheaper milk for the juice. Second is the income effect. When milk costs less, your money just goes further. Your purchasing power literally increases, so you can afford to buy more. And third, the law of diminishing marginal utility. Remember that first glass of milk? Awesome. The 10th glass? Not so much. Each extra one you have gives you less and less satisfaction, so you're only going to buy more if the price keeps dropping.
Okay, time for a little pop quiz. Now, this seems really simple, but I promise you it's a classic trick question in economics. Based on everything we've just talked about, what happens to the demand for a product when its price goes down? The answer is nothing. Yep, you heard me right. Absolutely nothing happens to demand. And if your brain just did a little backflip, don't worry, because understanding why that's the answer is the key to really mastering this whole thing. This is where we have to be really, really precise with our words. There is a massive difference between a change in quantity demanded and a change in demand itself. One is like moving along a path, and the other is like the entire path moving to a new location. So here it is, the distinction that unlocks everything. A change in price only causes a change in the quantity demanded. Just think of it as moving from one point to another along the very same demand curve. But a true change in demand, that's a whole different story. That's when the entire curve itself actually shifts, and it's caused by things that have nothing to do with the product's current price tag. So, if a change in price doesn't shift the curve, what does? This is the million-dollar question, especially if you're running a business. You gotta know what things, besides your price, could suddenly make everybody want more of your stuff or less of it. So let's look at the 5 big factors that cause these shifts, what economists call the determinants of demand. And here they are, the 5 big shifters. Your tastes or preferences, the total number of consumers out there, the price of other related goods, your income, and finally, your expectations about the future. A change in any one of these can literally pick up the entire demand curve and move it. The price of related goods is a really big one. So you've got substitutes like almond milk versus cow's milk. If the price of almond milk suddenly shoots up, what happens? The demand for cow's milk increases, the whole curve shifts to the right. Then there are complements, things that go together, like cereal and milk. If the price of cereal goes way down, people are going to buy more cereal. And because of that, the demand for milk is also going to increase. Income is another fascinating shifter. For most things, what we call normal goods, your demand goes up when your income goes up. Makes perfect sense, right? You make more money, you buy more nice things. But for inferior goods, the exact opposite happens. Think about stuff like instant noodles or maybe taking the bus. When your income rises, you actually buy less of those things because you can now afford a steak dinner or your own car. So your demand for the inferior good actually goes down. And finally, we have expectations. If you hear a news report that a big storm is coming and you think the price of milk is going to skyrocket next week, what are you going to do? You're probably going to run out and buy more milk today. So your expectation of a future price change increases your demand right now. shifting that curve to the right.
Now, just when you think you've got it all figured out, economics throws us a curveball. While that law of demand we talked about holds true almost all the time, there are some pretty rare and fascinating exceptions where the rules just get completely flipped upside down.
And here's what that looks like: an abnormal demand curve. See how it slopes upward? It just looks wrong, doesn't it? Well, this means that for a handful of special goods, when the price goes up, people actually buy more of it, which completely violates the law of demand. So how is that even possible? So how does this happen? Well, one super rare case is what's called a Giffen good. Think of a staple food for a very low-income household. If its price goes up, they might have to cut back on other more expensive foods and just buy even more of the staple just to get enough calories. A more common reason, though, is for articles of ostentation. We're talking pure luxury items. For a designer watch, the high price is the appeal. It's a status symbol. Making it more expensive can actually increase how desirable it is, and so the quantity demanded goes up. So there you have it. We've gone from the basic law to that tricky but crucial distinction between a movement and a shift, and even to the weird exceptions that break the rules. You now have a really solid handle on the consumer side of the market. But demand is only one blade of the scissors. What happens when we introduce the other blade, supply? Well, that's when the market really truly comes to life.